Hello everyone. Today I'm going to go over a problem from the recent Tsume Shogi Championship. I don't know if you've heard already, but surprise, surprise, Fuji Sota won. He's basically wins every time he participates, and in fact, I believe he won this event when he was 12 years old. Now, mind you, professional players play in this event and participate. Not just professional players in this one. I mean, Fujii himself participated. I think Hirose also participated. So there are multiple pros and really top level pros that participated in this, and he won when he was 12. Now, it sounds super ridiculous to say when he won his 12. It's a little bit less ridiculous if you say he won when he was a Shorekai Tudan, because he was already Tudan in Shorekai when he was 12. Okay, now I picked out specifically this problem because I think it's pretty approachable. It's got a couple cool lines, but also there's video of Fuji solving it in 15 seconds. This guy is absolutely insane. So I thought I'd go over and then we'd watch Fuji solve it in a ridiculous amount of time. So I think as far as like difficulty of these problems go, on average, they're quite difficult. This one I think is a relatively easy one. It's a bit approachable. So if you look at the starting position, I think most people could come to the conclusion that you really need to prevent the king from escaping to this top quadrant of the board. You don't have any pieces or influence there. And the best way to do that is to drop a bishop on this diagonal, right? I think that would kind of be the first thing that you would think about. And that is the right move. The thing with these problems, though, is they don't have any ambiguous or wasted moves. It's almost artwork at this level, where every move is precise and has a reason why that move is played and not another, right? So you really actually, it's important to figure out which square it needs to be dropped on. Now, I think the obvious wrong answer is you probably wouldn't drop on 4-4, right? Because then the bishop won't be able to promote if you need it to promote later. So we'll probably rule out 4-4 pretty quickly. But it's hard to see immediately what the difference exactly would be between 1-1, 2-2, and 3-3. So if we drop on 3-3, there could be some benefits. It covers more squares, right, if we need to go in. But there's one downside, which is that when the king runs to 5-6 and you check it and chase it to the corner of the board, it hits the bishop immediately. And so you need to defend it. And now the king is safe and it's escaped away. And essentially you run into a similar problem if you drop it on 2-2. It just takes a little bit longer to get there. And you have the same problem where the king hits the bishop and you can't mate the king in this corner. But it turns out if you drop it on 1-1 and you go through this exact same sequence of moves, sorry, wrong knight, that in this position the king is not hitting the bishop. So you don't need to drop the gold to protect the bishop. And we can drop it to 3-3. And now, when the king runs, we can go ahead and promote the bishop and mate the king. And I think I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but the actual problem is a mate in 13. And so part of this precision of the problems is that you need to find the defensive resources to make the mate as long as possible. And it turns out that this is a mate in 11. So essentially, to read that first move of where to place the bishop, you would need to read through these different variations, see this mate in 11, and know that this is not the line that the defender would need to play. But of course, there's no mate if you drop on these ones, so that's how you figure out just the first move being bishop 1-1, and why you know that the king isn't going to run to 5-6. Because once you drop here, actually, these squares are all covered. And so really, the king has 2 squares to run to. So really, to read that first move is also essentially to eliminate the king running to 5-6 after the first move. So when the king runs to 7-6, Now, this is probably the key move of the entire position. So if you want to solve it yourself, maybe you paused it already, but you can go ahead and pause here too, because this is probably the trickiest move in the whole sequence. Okay, so here the move is sacking the horse on 8-7. And if they take with the silver, there's actually a mate in one with this gold drop. It's a little bit hard to see because it's so wide open and the pieces are so far apart. But the bishop covers the diagonal, the silver covers this square, and the knight covers 6-7. So here you have to take it with the king. And then the next move is to check with the silver. And here, if the king runs up the board to 9-8, you have a really nice move here. So I would suggest pausing the video and trying to find this mate. It's actually only a mate in 3. And the key move is to promote the bishop back on 9-9. So obviously if the king runs, you have gold on the head. And if the king takes it, we have gold drop on 8-9 for a mate. So that's why the king doesn't run to 9-8. Instead, it runs to 9-7. And here we go ahead and take the silver. If the king takes the silver here, we can actually just promote our bishop. And when the king runs, we have mate. So again, this is only a mate in 11, so we know that this is not the right solution. And the reason this is not the right solution is because the pawn can take. And then after pawn takes, this is move 8. So there's a mate in 5 from here that I would also suggest trying to find. And it's actually using a line essentially that we've already seen. So here we sacrifice the silver on 9-8. King takes. And then we sacrifice this bishop back on 9-9 again. King takes. And then we can go ahead and drop the gold on 8-9 for mate. So I think that took me about 7 minutes to explain this problem. And I thought really quickly we can take a look at Fujii solving this problem. So this is essentially the start of round 2. The format for the Tsume Shogi Championships is that there's 2 90-minute rounds, 5 problems in each round. So this is the start of round 2. So he's doing problem number 6 right at the beginning here. I'm just going to roll it. And the first time I saw this, I couldn't believe how quickly he started. Not to mention his eraser flipping skills, by the way. And that's it. Now the crazy thing is the person 2 seats behind him has also solved this problem. Yeah, it was a little bit disturbing to me how quickly they were able to solve this problem and see all of those lines. And I think this, and in the actual full event, Fujii won. He had a perfect score, 100. Basically, for each of the problems are worth 10 points. And you can get partial credit if you get some of the moves, or essentially you can get partial credit deducted, for example, if you didn't pick the exact right move, right? So if you would have said bishop drop 3-3, and then the rest of the line, you would have gotten points deducted because you didn't find the correct first move. So Fujii not only won, he got a perfect score, 100 points out of 100 points. And I think I had mentioned that this was 2 90-minute rounds. But in both rounds, Fujii handed in his answers early to the point where he only used 121 of the allotted 180 minutes. I think the next closest competitor in terms of minutes used, like a low, is like 175 or something like that. Like this guy, basically the instant he turned his paper in, he had already won before anybody else had even finished, before the time ran out. And so this is the type of thing, I think I've said it before in some debates I've had, but Fujii is really special. He's really a one-of-a-kind player, and I don't know if we're ever going to see someone at this level ever again. So yeah, Thanks for watching. If you want me to try and cover some of the other problems from this competition, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.